All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Big Doug and Carmi Show, your one-stop shop for all things Commanders. Today, we got a special bye-week special for you. Coach Jay Gruden is in the house. What's up, Jay? How are you?
What's up, fellas? Good to be here.
It is, man. We're excited to have you. So, listen, from coaching to podcasting, how have you found the new gig? Did you ever think that you'd be doing podcasting? How has it worked for you?
It's been fun, really. It's a way for me to stay involved in the game. I love the game and love being involved and talking about it. So it's one avenue to express my feelings, and don't have to work 18 hours a day and get bashed by the fans and the media and people like you every Sunday or Monday.
We probably were pretty nice to you, as I recall, Jay.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
appreciate that. You were the only ones.
So, Jay, the talk that's out here in DC is that Jaden Daniels obviously is having a great rookie year. I'm just kind of curious, what do you think are the strengths of his game, and what do you think are areas of growth in his game moving forward?
You know what? I've been ultra impressed with Jaden. I think it all comes down to the poise of the player as a rookie has been outstanding. Nothing seems to faze him at all. He's got great confidence in his ability. He loves to play the game. He's a great competitor. He can do it from the pocket. He can do it outside the pocket. He can do it with his legs and the zone reads and the RPOs. I don't see a flaw in his game. Obviously, he's going to get better and better with time. But for being a rookie, completing this high of a percentage of balls, not making the mistakes, it's not like they're not doing anything. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury has them doing a lot with the motions and all the things and the ball handling. You don't see any turnovers, any miscues whatsoever. Just been very impressed. I don't really see a weakness. If it is, sometimes he drags his arm a little bit. And the ball doesn't pop out of there quite as, with a lot of pop. Sometimes it kind of floats on him, but that's just being nitpicky, quite frankly. I think he's a hell of a player, and it's going to be a fun run for the Washington Commanders for many years with this guy.
He's not RG3 and he's not Lamar Jackson. What in your mind is he theoretically more like? Those are the quick comps people give, and I think it's kind of lazy just because they're runners.
He's nothing like either one of them, to be honest
Right.
with you. He's his own guy. I think he has his own strengths. He's a competitor like Lamar, but he's a much better passer than people think. I mean, this guy at Arizona State, I didn't think he was that good of a passer because he ran all the time. Then he went to LSU when he had, the receivers that they had, Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors. I think he figured out that by throwing the ball to those guys, he had a better chance than running the ball, and he really learned to play within the pocket. They did a great job with him at LSU. He got a lot of experience in college, which really helped him coming into the NFL. Not many quarterbacks get to play 4 or 5 solid years of college football and big time college football at that. So that really helped him. And athletically, I think he is a lot like Lamar. He's got the ability to make people miss at the drop of a hat. He's got the same amount of speed, but I think if you're going to compare them athletically, I would say Lamar, because they both have the ability to make people miss at any given minute. But throwing the football, I think he's better than both of them, quite frankly.
You mentioned Cliff, Jay, and he's been a head coach. He's now the offensive coordinator. You've done both. They're two totally different things. Do you think Cliff's gotten into a gig where he likes being able to just draw the plays up on the board and enjoy himself? Because a head coach, and this, is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, it is. But I think you have to take advantage of the opportunities when you get them. You never know what's going to happen. If people are knocking on your door, you got to answer it because these jobs don't come along very often. Something could happen to Jade. You could have a bad year. You could be out of a job next year. You never know. So, but Cliff could be happy. He had already had a head coaching job. I'm sure he's got plenty of money in the bank. But depending on the opportunity, I think Cliff would probably welcome a chance to really get another opportunity to be that head coach. Because it didn't work out at Arizona. Obviously, he wants to prove to people that he is a good head coach. But he may be happy. I don't know. It's all up to the coach, really, But you're right. It is totally different. You can't spend as much time as you would as a coordinator putting in a game plan. I learned that the hard way. But I ended up letting Sean and Kevin O'Connell have a lot of input in the game plan, so it worked out for us. But he's a good football coach, and I'm sure he'll get another opportunity.
Jay, with that said, there's a lot of rumors about the Chicago Bears job potentially being open next year and potentially Cliff being linked to that job. Which one is more appealing? You've been in that position before. What team is more appealing to essentially be a part? With Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach for the Bears, or staying with that relationship with Jaden in DC?
Well, Caleb's gotten better and better. So he knows Caleb quite well. So I would probably say, with the skill they have in Rome Dudze and Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, that might be a great opportunity for him. But who knows? That's a tough division now. I mean, Green Bay is really good. They have a good young quarterback. Detroit's unbelievable. Obviously, Minnesota's got some talent all across the board. So as a head coach, obviously the salary is a lot better. And you might, if you get a 5-year deal for $5 or $6 million, $7 million a year, I mean, it's hard to turn that away being a coordinator.
Absolutely.
So money does matter. However, if it was everything was equal, I think he liked the upside of the Washington Commanders. But
Jay,
everything's not equal, my friend.
That's true. Very good point. I agree.
Jay, they put that picture up every time showing the Shanahan tree, and I think a lot of the times, like half those guys got to be on a Gruden tree. What is the Gruden tree, and how important is it to the Grudens?
The Gruden tree got uprooted and burned somewhere. I guess they forgot about us. I don't know. But I hired Sean McVay to be the youngest coordinator in pro football history, I believe, and hired Kevin O'Connell, but that doesn't matter. My brother hired Sean McVay first. And then I hired Sean McVay in the UFL and then made him the coordinator here. And we have a lot of guys on our tree. John hired Mike Tomlin and Raheem Morris. I had Raheem Morris for a year. So, but whatever. I'm just happy to be part of those guys' future and what they've done for pro football, just to be a part of it and help them along, because they're all good young football coaches and they're doing a great job, both Sean and Kevin and Raheem.
Jay, I think he had a pretty good scouting eye when he's recruiting players. I think it's kind of underrated under your aspect. Some people that you drafted under your regime, Terry McLaurin, John Allen, Deron Payne. I'm just kind of curious. Terry McLaurin's a fan favorite now, having a great year, coming on 9 touchdowns, almost 1,000 yards right now. What did you see in Terry McLaurin as a college prospect that you really just wanted to have on your team?
I love Terry. He was on a team with a lot of weapons. They had 2 or 3 guys that could really play a good running game. Obviously, Dwayne was a quarterback at the time. But I think really Terry didn't burst onto the scene until he went to the Senior Bowl. He was the best player at the Senior Bowl. He was very explosive, strong hands. He was the team captain 2 years in a row at Ohio State, and I was a wideout. So that tells you a lot about his character. So we knew what type of player, what type of person he was. That helps a lot. And then we saw his 40 time and his speed and his acceleration and his hands and his attention to detail. And we were just hoping and praying that he'd last that long, and he did, thank goodness. I wanted to take him to hell. I was happy to take him in the first, but, we said, we'll take the other kid from Ohio State. I was like, Terry? No, we took Dwayne. But fortunately, we got Terry in the third, and it all worked out for everybody.
Real quick follow-up to that. There's a rumor that Terry McLaurin was doing so well in training camp that you kind of hit him during the preseason. Is there any truth to that?
Hell yeah. I would put him in a damn preseason game and show him running by people. Yeah, I think we played Philadelphia week 1, and he had like a 60-yard touchdown and ran right by everybody. He would have had another one, but Case Keenum overthrew him by like 10 yards, So, He's the type of guy that he didn't need the reps in preseason. He's very attention detailed, knew all the formations, knew all the plays, and he was just an awesome guy to coach.
Was he your favorite draft pick? Do you have a favorite draft pick from your time in Washington?
He's up there. Yeah. We've had some fun ones, some good ones, but Terry for sure is probably the best for what we got for the third round part of it. We had some other ones later on that were pretty good, but some guys didn't work out as well as we had hoped. Josh Doxson, obviously we thought we needed a receiver. We probably overreached for him, but that was not a very good draft for defensive lineman or anybody. So we needed a wideout. But overall, we had some good picks, some good late round picks that really helped our football team. I love Jonathan Allen. I love Deron Payne. So yeah, we were fortunate. I like Sweat too. They got rid of Sweat, and Sweat's doing good in Chicago.
Yeah.
We had some good ones.
It's I was hoping earlier we were talking about Cliff and the offense and kind of how it's morphed a little bit since he left Arizona. I was hoping you'd tell our viewers maybe what the difference is. They talk about going fast and using tempo, but there's a difference between using tempo and just going fast for the sake of going fast. I was hoping you could kind of explain the difference and how they're using it to keep defenses off balance.
Yeah, in going fast, you're basically calling a play and just living with it, whatever happens. And when you're using tempo, you're going fast, but you're a controlled fast where you can change the play if you don't like the look. I believe that's what they're doing a lot of. And Jaden can see the field. Even though they're rushing to the line, he has time to look at the defense and figure out what he wants to do, and just has time, and sometimes they go ultra fast. So there's a difference in tempo and going like 2-minute tempo where you're really hurrying up and snapping it. But they do a good job with that, and they keep defenses off balance. And a lot of times when you go tempo, it really limits a defensive coordinator's call sheet. You know what I mean? So they don't know where you're going to be at by the time they see the personnel group and they make a call, and they're limited. You know, they got to get a call in. They don't have time to call the fire zones, the tough blitzes that, you know, might be a little bit wordy. So there's a lot of advantages going tempo, and they're doing a great job with it. And they're getting into the good play a lot. You don't see them running into free safety blitzes, loss of fives. They're doing a good job of getting the right box count and hammering it up in there and then pulling it out when they have to. So they've got defenses really. You know, I don't know what to say, but they really got them. You know, they got them. You know, they got them right now because Jaden. You know, I think there was a 2 or 3 game stretch where Jaden wasn't quite 100%. You know, he might not have been hurt. I understand that, but I don't think he was quite the same Jaden as he was early in the season. He was a little bit more protective, and I think Cliff was a little more protective on the play calls. But when he's rolling, man, he is a tough guy to stop because he can run it, he can throw it, he can, you know, the quarterback design runs, and then he can just hand it off on the little counters and the little inside zones. And B-Rob is a big addition for them because he gets the tough yards between the tackles. And when they're ahead of the sticks, 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, this is a train now. They're hard to stop. You know, the only time they had trouble in that 3-game losing streak when they were stuck in 3rd and 8 and 9, they weren't very good. You know, they were, you know, 3 for 12 one game, 4 for 13 another game, I think 5 for 15 another game. And that's when you struggle. But if they just continue to push it and get in those 3rd and makeables, their 3rd and 3s and less, their percentage is sick as far as making them, and their 4th and 1s are damn near 100%.
Mm-hmm. They're in guns so much, Jay. They use a lot of hand signals. You may not know the answer to this, and that's okay. But I was just curious: do they change those hand signals on a weekly basis? How does that tend to work?
I think it depends on what they see on tape. You're going to have somebody, one of your quality control guys, watching the tape and making sure if he gives a hand signal like it's a bubble screen to the receiver, and that's their hand signal, that gets on tape, and they're going to have to change it. You know, but if they feel like they didn't, you know, it was subtle enough where the defense didn't get it, then I think they'll be okay. But yeah, it's important to change your hand signals. You know, so because defenses have quality control guys too, and they study the hell out of the tape, and they have the microphones on the center, so they have people listening to the game version. If they can hear different cadences and different words in the cadence, they'll find it out and they'll tell the lineman if Ringo means the center's going right, they'll know that and they'll blitz off the left side. So there's a lot of cat and mouse games when it comes to verbal communication and nonverbal communication that you got to be aware of.
I got a 2-part question for you. So you kind of touched on the fact that the last 3 weeks that Washington kind of regressed against the Steelers, Eagles, and the Cowboys. There were some talk radio in the media about, you know, a cliff and potentially hitting a rut, kind of hitting a wall there. I'm kind of curious if you saw a wall potentially, or not just kind of BS and the players not executing, part 1. And then part 2, how much evolution do you have as an offensive coordinator throughout the year? Do you have to change a lot or just kind of fine tweaking as the year goes on?
I think you're fine tweaking and you're attacking the defenses that you're playing. Each defense poses a different threat and have different strengths, different weaknesses. They play different coverages. Some teams might play a spot drop 3 deep zone. Some teams might carry the 3 vertical. Some teams might play more of a fire zone 5-man rush. You know, Pittsburgh is a very tough defense. It's well documented. They have good defensive ends. They have one of the best inside tackles in Cam Hayward. So it's not like they struggled against the number 28th ranked defense. You know, this is a good defense. And then they have to turn around and play Thursday night against Philadelphia, who's obviously, when they got Cooper DeJean back and Quinyon Mitchell start to play at a high level, and they already have the good front, the 2 big tackles. I mean, you can see how you struggle on a short week there. And then, you know, the Cowboy game was an anomaly. I think, you know, they just had too many things not work in their favor. The special teams debacles, things of that nature, they could not overcome. But I don't really believe that. I think Cliff will make enough changes and tweaks to the system as he goes on, especially now that they have a bye week. They'll be able to take a deep breath, understand what they've done good, what they need to work on, and then add some nuances off some of the formation keys that they've given the defenses. So they'll be able to change a lot. The good thing about Cliff and what the Commanders are doing, they're doing it a lot of different personnel groups. They're doing out of 2 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets, 1 tight end sets with 3 receivers. And sometimes it's 2 backs and 1 tight end. So they're doing a lot of good different things. So it's really hard on the defensive coordinators to hone in on, okay, they're in this formation personnel group. This is what they're going to do. And then you got Jaden pulling it at any given minute. So it's a great equalizer when you have a quarterback that can pull it out and run it at any time, because he requires so much attention. Because if you don't give him attention, you're looking at a 40-yard game.
George and I had a bunch of the national guys on during the offseason, giving us a hard time about Cliff Kingsbury being the offensive coordinator and how it wouldn't work. What was your thoughts on Cliff and the hiring?
Yeah, I was a little concerned too because he had some pretty good players at Arizona, and I felt like they underachieved a little bit there, but their offensive line wasn't quite good enough, I don't think. And they had some good players. They just did never seem to get over the hump. And Kyler never really seemed to show this first pick in the draft ability. And I was a little concerned when you have a coordinator that's supposed to be as smart as Cliff. You'd expect him to be throwing for 4,000 yards and rushing for 800. It never really happened. But give him another opportunity, getting a player of Jaden's caliber, I think makes a big deal. Now, had they drafted somebody else and they went in the season with some slappy, I think Cliff would be on the hot seat again. But Jaden can make a lot of plays right. I did a play the other day on my X thing where, it was an RPO. The run was dead. So Jaden tried the pass concept to Ertz in the flat. That was dead. So now he just looks at it, scrambles, and scores a touchdown. Not many quarterbacks do that now. I mean, he's got the ability to make all plays right, even though they're not very good. Some of the plays that aren't drawn up, they're covered down the field. Boom, gain of 5. Maybe a nickel blitz coming off the edge, unblocked. He'll make a miss, gain of 7 or 8, or scramble and hit a guy down the field for gain of 20. So these plays that Jaden makes he makes Cliff Kingsbury look a hell of a lot better, but Cliff is doing a good job making Jaden look good as well. It kind of works hand in hand.
Absolutely.
How did you real quick, George, how did you have the quarterbacks ranked before the season started?
I think Caleb was pretty damn good. It was 1-2, those two guys. I think they're both excellent, had great upside, both of them. I think Jaden was more ready to play because of the ability for him to stay in the pocket a little bit more. Caleb he depended on the ad lib plays, and playing at USC, they had to score every time they had the ball. Their defense was terrible. So I think he figured he had to run around a little bit more, make some plays, but he's a good athlete and he's got great arm talent. And I don't blame Chicago for taking him, but had my druthers, I would have taken Jaden, but Caleb is showing right now that he's really worthy of being that number 1 pick as well. I think they're both very good players. And I think Drake May is starting to show some upside as well with his athletic ability and his arm talent. And obviously Bo Nix is doing some excellent things with Denver. So being in the right situation helps. Having players around you help. Being a starter from day one helps when you're getting all the reps and people are relying on you to make the plays as opposed to quarterback competition and training camp with a veteran. All these guys kind of came in and were the guy from day one, which helps out a lot because repetitions matter.
That is not the Bo Nix from Auburn, by the way.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's not the Jaden Daniels from Arizona State either. Now,
that's right.
That's a great point.
Experience matters. These guys play a lot of football. These guys really do. And Bo Nix playing 5 years. I mean, hell, he's 25 years old. He's older than some of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So, and Jaden got 4 or 5 years, which is outstanding. Caleb got a couple good seasons. Where was he? Two different teams.
Oklahoma,
having to learn 2 different systems. That helps out a lot because you got to really pay attention to the systems and be able to adapt your talent to whatever the people like. So that helps these guys. And then you come in, it's kind of effortless for these guys to learn another system and understand route concepts because they've seen it and done it at high levels.
Jay, I know you're kind of focusing more on the NFL holistically altogether now. Washington just recently cut Emmanuel Forbes, another first-round pick out of Washington. That's 6 straight first-round picks no longer on the roster. I'm just curious, how hard is that to overcome as a coach, and what are the deficits on the team as we see it right now?
Yeah, that's difficult. That's unfortunate. They had so many people in the personnel department too. It's just hard to believe they make that many mistakes, but it happens. Sometimes you reach for a guy at a position where you're in a position of need and you make the wrong choice and he doesn't pan out. And sometimes they won't pan out for you. Maybe they'll pan out for somebody else down the road, but the one thing you can't do is just because you drafted him first, you can't stay married to him if he doesn't work out. You have to make a move. That's what Belichick was so good. They might have drafted a guy and in the first round just got rid of him or paid a guy a lot in free agency, but they're like, well, he's not for us. Let's get rid of him. Mm-hmm. You just can't keep the guy because, you drafted him. And I think making these moves is important. But I think right now Washington's in a pretty good spot. They address a lot of things. I think Adam Peters did a great job in the offseason. The interior offensive line, getting the center and the guard. The linebacking core was kind of weak, and he went out and got Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, which are two great ads. Now they went out and got Zach Ertz, another tight end. They drafted Snot, which I think really helped. The running game with the coaches last year, it's hard to run the ball when you don't have a blocking tight end. Logan Thomas, as good as he is in the passing game, can't block the point of attack. Now they have 2 or 3 guys that can block the point of attack. Now you can run inside zones. You can cut off the backside. You can do a lot of different things. So they addressed key physical positions, the interior offensive line, the tight end, and the inside linebackers. I think moving forward, they got to get some more help for Terry out on the outside. They got another receiver that can really make people miss in a separating man-to-man. That would help out tremendously. And obviously with Eckler's status with his concussion, I think another back would help out, a change of pace back. You'd love to get, obviously you won't get a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, but having that combination of Montgomery and Gibbs is very important. Take some pressure off B-Rob, get another back that can really catch the ball and attack linebackers in the passing game, and then have the speed to get on the outside with some of your perimeter plays. I think that on offense would be huge. Maybe, obviously, you can always address the offensive line depth. And then defensive line, obviously, would be an issue moving forward. They got to get more defensive linemen with Jonathan Allen's status. And then corner, obviously they got to find corners. I don't know what Marshawn Lattimore's up to, but yeah. I like the rookie from Michigan. I think he's doing some good things, but I think you can always add more corners and safeties.
Jay, sorry to follow up, one quick follow up, Doug. Jay, as offensive coordinator, you talked about maybe getting another wide receiver. Is there a particular wide receiver that would complement Terry McLaurin's skill, or just you want the best, most talented player whatsoever? Like, just draft the best guy on the draft board. Or is there a particular skill set you want?
I would love to have a guy that can do multiple things, especially in the slot. I think what they're missing right now is a good slot receiver that can attack the middle of the field with some option, some choice routes. We always had a guy like Crowder. Jordan Reed was a tight end, but somebody that can really attack the middle of the field. Terry has the speed to take the top off, but you need more of a guy that can work the zones. Like a Junior Edelman type or somebody like that. West
Ross and Brown, somebody like that. Yeah,
Brown, somebody like that. That'd be perfect. I think great compliment who could do a little bit of both. Not a one-dimensional guy. You don't want just a speed guy on the outside. I think somebody that can really work the inside. I thought maybe McCaffrey would be that guy, but I don't think he really has the size or the speed or the separation skills to do that. He's a good player, maybe eventually, but I think they need a little bit better.
We see so many of the tunnel screens and the bubble screens. How difficult is it to actually pull those things off?
It's difficult. That's why you want to have physical receivers, really, and that's important. You look at San Francisco when they have the success having Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings. The perimeter run game, their perimeter screen game is so good because those guys can block safeties and corners. If you have little receivers that can't block the perimeter, then those plays aren't worth a damn. So having those bigger guys that have the athleticism to get in front and stay in front and stalk block and block safeties and corners and all that stuff make them work extremely well. And you look at some of these teams that's really the only success they have because they can't throw the ball down the field. But it's a big part of football right now, the bubble screens and the tunnel screens and the release screens. But you got to have bigger type receivers to pull that off and good athletic linemen to get out there and get on the linebackers and corners or whatever it might be.
Jay, how is it possible that Samaje Perine is still in the league?
Well, he's a good player. He's a guy who can do a little bit of both. He's not your bell cow, but he can be if somebody gets hurt. He's not really a third down back, but he can catch. He's got good enough hands. He's a good player. Takes care of the ball. He's tough between the tackles. Got really big thighs. Can get the tough yards. He's a hell of a guy, and he's smart. So there's a lot of good things. He's got good vision. Hell, he had 500 yards one game. I think it was against Kansas in college. So
yeah, he did.
He's got the ability to get you on the outside, on the inside. He's a good player. You're always looking probably to get a little bit better than Samaje, but if he's on your team and he has to carry the rock, you're not too disappointed.
All right, if you're starting a franchise tomorrow, Jay, and all coaches are available except Gruden's, of course. Who in your mind is the best coach right now? Who would you start your organization?
Andy Reid is not even close. I think Andy Reid. I take him to coach my offense, and I take Sean McDermott to coach my defense. I think what he's done at Buffalo with all the change of pieces over there, they got 2 new safeties. He's done a good job. They lost their starting linebacker. They're still one of the top defenses in football. He's got a good blitz scheme. He's sound in what he does. All those guys, they always hustle and tackle extremely well. So I'd take McDermott to coach a defense and Reed to coach the offense.
Jay, just kind of curious, talking about coaches, who's your favorite player to watch in the NFL right now?
Player, I love watching Jaden. He's fun to watch. I love watching Josh Allen. Josh Allen, because he's just so big and powerful. He's like a man amongst boys sometimes, and he makes the game look so easy and so. He just does everything effortless. I went to Louisville, so I love Lamar. I love good quarterback play. As far as receivers, I love watching Justin Jefferson because, like I mentioned before, he's a guy that can hit you on the inside and the outside. With his size and his ability to read coverages and burst away from man and work the zones and zone, strong hands, great, easy target. I love watching good pass rushers. I love watching TJ Watt's effort and his ability to get make big plays at the right time. Love good corner play, so I love watching good corners play up tight man-to-man. And my guy from Louisville, Jair Alexander, he's been hurt a lot, but he's one of my guys. He's got a little bit of swag to him, a little bit of pep in his step.
Was there interest in TJ Watt, by the way? Sorry to interrupt you. I don't know if this is like confidential or anything.
Yeah.
But I thought there was rumors that you guys are potentially going to draft him.
Yeah, we like TJ. We had a lot
Okay.
of mixed reviews on TJ because he really only played 1 year at Wisconsin, and it was
Gotcha.
he showed some plays where he showed some stiffness and all that stuff. Some people
Okay.
are like, he's stiff. He doesn't have the same ability, but he was just so raw, so powerful, and he played so hard that you knew he'd be a good player somewhat. I don't think anybody could project that he'd be the player that he is now, to be honest with you, from what we saw at Wisconsin. They're lying if they say they did. But you're just hoping for the upside with the effort and the tenacity that he plays with. That you can't coach. Then you're hoping that he gets a little fast and does some things with the pass rush or learns some pass rush moves. The negative on TJ, he can only play one side pretty much, and teams know where he is, and they can chip the hell out of him. So it's hard for him to have multi sacks because if he gets 5 sacks in a game, you're the dumbest coordinator in the world. You know where he's going to be. Chip the shit out of him. Put your tight end over there and double team him. Get 4 hands on him and then go.
Yeah.
But he's a great player. Yeah.
Do they need to fix something as far as it feels like this year more than any, we're seeing quarterbacks picking up those extra yards on the sideline because defenders don't want to hit them. Is that a problem, or is that just something that they'll deal with in the game?
Well, I think it's, I think Tom Brady had a great quote. It's a quarterback's job to protect themselves. If they're running down the sidelines and they stay in bounds, they're like a running back. They can get knocked into the coolers. And I think you'll see more of that. You look at the hit on Trevor Lawrence the other day. It's unfortunate, but, Trevor slid too late, in my opinion, and I don't think the guy had any intention to take his head off, but maybe he could have pulled up a little bit, but he's going low and trying to get the tackle, and all of a sudden he slides at the same time, and then there's his elbow, and all hell breaks loose. And it's probably a little bit of a cheap shot, but it's hard for these defenders to be full speed and trying to, okay, I got to pull up at the last second when I'm lunging. So it's unfair to the defenders at times. Sometimes they're out of line, hitting them late out of bounds or what have you. But I think it is more of the quarterback's responsibility to get down if you need to get down. I like the way Jaden slides forward sometimes, and he avoids hits a lot. He does a great job of protecting himself. There's a lot of quarterbacks that do a good job. Some quarterbacks not so much.
How long did it take you to get used to saying the Commanders?
Well,
Have you gotten there yet?
Yeah, I still say I am the last coach of the Redskins, so I have that going for me. Yeah, I know Callahan was the interim coach, but I was the last official head coach for the Redskins, so I'm very proud of that. So maybe they'll change their name back one day. I heard rumors of that. They might do that, but I don't know. But it is difficult because it was such a great name and a great history behind it, and a lot of pride in that name for a lot of different people. But you got to do what you got to do as far as the world we live in nowadays.
Do the uniforms and the names matter to the players?
Nowadays these kids are playing so many video games when they come up. Hell, when I interviewed guys at the combine, a lot of guys they couldn't name 4 teams in NFC East.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think the history is, some people it is. Obviously the fans for sure, but some of the young players coming up, I don't think it is as much anymore. They just want to play football. And now these guys are getting NIL money. They already got money, so I don't know how important money is to them. So
that's true.
It's a different world we live in right now. History matters to the old people and the people that are been part of the team for a long time. But for these young kids coming up, I don't think Jaden Daniel probably knew about the Redskins Cowboy rivalries back in the 70s or the John Riggins, Joe Gibbs days. I don't think he probably knew that, but a lot of people do have a lot of pride in history.
Do you like the black uniforms?
They're okay. I'm not a huge fan of those black ones. I'm a big burgundy guy, but whatever. Do you like them? Did you guys like them?
I like them. I like the helmets.
If you see the black ones live, they look a whole lot better.
They do.
Oh, yeah?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha. Jay, I had a fun one for you too. It's just for my personal interest. You had a lot of good personalities in your locker room. Trent Williams, Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, Tress Way. I'm just curious if you had a particular favorite you really got along with or any funny jokes in the locker room.
Oh man, there's that's the one fun thing about being a coach that I really miss is the different personalities in the locker room. There's some personalities I just couldn't stand out. I couldn't wait to get rid of them. I couldn't wait till the day was over so I didn't have to see them. And that's unfortunate because we were talking about culture. If I can't get rid of the bad guys, then we're never going to have good culture. But anyway, leave that alone. But you mentioned some great ones. Those were some great ones. I love always the relationships with the quarterbacks as I spent a lot of time with them. Colt was unbelievable. I still work with Colt right now. And then some of the receivers, Jameson Crowder. Crowder had a great personality. Jordan Reed was quiet, but he's a funny guy. Obviously, Trent, Brandon, Sheriff, Morgan, Moses. Those guys were great. Defensively, loved Shazer Everett. He was a great guy. He was a great special team guy for us. Kerrigan, he didn't have a personality to save his life, but I loved him. He worked his ass off.
He's a good guy, right? Yeah, it's good people.
They said he's
Great
really
guy.
good.
I would take Kerrigan on my team any day, but he doesn't say damn words.
They're
I
hyping him up
don't know
in
what
the
the hell he's
coaching.
saying. I don't know what he's saying to the
Hyping-
players.
They're hyping him up in the coaching room. They said
I
they
love
said
him,
he's,
man. Well,
they say he's doing really good at coaching.
he should be doing good because he was overachiever as a player, and he was a strong guy, but as far as athleticism wise, he had to be in the right spot and really study what the tackles did and all that stuff. And he had an unbelievable career for us and loved him. Chris Baker, he was quite the character. Jesus Christ, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of great ones. Darius Geis, man, I just wish he would have got to play.
Yeah.
I wish he wouldn't have got hurt because he would have been a treat. He would have been a problem the more success he had, but he was really a fun guy to be around. Yeah, that's just crazy. That Darius Geis thing. He could have been
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, he was, playing a preseason game, and they asked me to put out the depth chart, and I put him as like fourth team on the depth chart. He came in my office before the preseason. He goes, hey, coach, man, what do I got to do to be the first on the depth chart? I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 7 carries, protect the protect the ball, and protect the quarterback, and I'll name you starter. He says, bet. Walked out the door. And on the 7th carry, he blew his knee out. Can't make it up.
That.
Can't make it
He's
up.
the one that got away, Jay. Like, I feel like he's a player that could potentially be like, he was getting Saquon Barkley like comps in regard to his play style. Like, is he the one player that got injured? Like, damn, that really messed things up for me. Or was it Josh
100%.
Dobson? Okay, yeah, okay.
His speed and power, the way he ran, the physicality that he had, the strength in his legs. His leg strength was a lot like Saquon's. I mean, he was strong. That's why I can't believe he blew his knee out, because his legs were so strong. I would think of maybe a concussion or a shoulder injury, something like that, but not anything lower body, because he was so strong. And then, the following year he rehabbed his ass off, and we started him against Philadelphia. I ended up sitting Adrian Peterson because I'm like, I got hammered for that, and deservedly so. I should have done it, but I was like, why would I want to give the ball to AP when I'm going to give the ball to Darius? And then they needed a third down back, and that was Chris Thompson. And needed a backup third down back, which was Wendell Smallwood at the time. And then, of course, Darius gets hurt in the first quarter, so I look like a big idiot. But I think he was the one guy I would say that injuries ruined one hell of a legendary career. And then Jordan Reed's probably the other one.
Absolutely.
I mean, Jordan Reed's talent is, Jordan Reed is one of those guys that, if he's in the game plan, it's a whole different game plan for us, formations, motions, all that stuff. And then when he's out, we're a different team. You go from Reed to Jeremy Sprinkle, it's a different offense. And my last year, he was in concussion protocol. He was in concussion protocol, and they'd say, okay, on Thursday, Friday, he's good to go. And then Friday afternoon, they say, no, he has symptoms, he's out. So I have to rip up half my game plan, 4 weeks in a row. But loved him. He's a great guy. Loved his talent. But those two guys, I think, would have made a huge, huge difference in the franchise moving forward if they were healthy, if they stayed healthy.
You mentioned Chris Baker. He was my co-host on this podcast for a year, and he might be the funniest man I've ever met in my life.
Chris Baker was the laziest son of a bitch ever. Ate like a pig, and now he's a food model, or what is he doing? He's in unbelievable shape.
Yeah, he is
I
in good shape now.
I would have bet my life salary that Chris Baker would have been 400 pounds right now. Now he's in unbelievable shape. I loved his personality, but he was the type of guy that would always, when we got ready for practice, he'd always say, I need to get retaped. Or, he would always just try to miss a period because, he had his shoes were too, he had to change his shoes, or it just drive me crazy. But man, I'm so happy for him. He's doing so good with his body, and he's in great shape.
Yeah.
And I loved his personality. Yeah.
Is Trent Williams the best player of his generation?
He's
regardless of position.
Everybody asks me the best athlete I've ever coached. It's Trent. It's not even close. AJ Green in Cincinnati was pretty damn good athletically and hand-eye coordination. Deshaun with his speed and hand-eye coordination. Jordan Reed with his ability to accelerate in and out of cuts and hand-eye coordination, all that stuff. But Trent, for his size, his athletic ability, his speed, his strength, his natural strength, he could not lift weights for a year and come in and be the strongest guy in the locker room. I don't know. He's a monster. And I never saw him get beat in practice. We do one-on-ones, all the time. And I'd be a quick whistle. I didn't want him to kill the guy. I'd be, okay, blow the whistle. He's done. But yeah, he's unbelievable. He could play tight end if he wanted to, defensive tackle. His 10-yard, he could beat a lot of receivers in a 10-yard dash. I mean, he's unbelievable. And And then we lost him because he had that thing on his head. He blamed the trainers and all that stuff. I was telling our guys, like, all he does is want more money. Don't listen to the trainer stuff. Just pay him more money. Let's get him here. He's the best tackle in the history of the league. But we let him go to San Francisco for nothing too. So, oh well.
Breaks my heart. And I guess my last question. So speaking of San Francisco, Trent Williams has been injured. Christian McCaffrey's been injured. We're starting to see a lot of things kind of fall apart there. Are you concerned long-term for them? Because I know Kyle Shanahan's there, and they potentially have so much talent there, but they're not looking too great this year. I'm just kind of curious if they can turn it around.
Well, they've had injuries. So is everybody else. Everybody's pointing to them and giving them the excuse for the injuries. Hell, there's been a lot of teams. Kansas City lost 2 receivers. They lost their tackle. They lost their running back. They lost some defenders, and they're still 10-2. Obviously they got Patrick Mahomes, but Purdy's only missed 1 game. They still have Deebo Samuel. They still have George Kittle. They have players on offense, and defensively they still got some guys, but injuries are part of it. Detroit's lost their whole defensive line and their whole secondary. They've lost everybody, and they're still 10-2 or whatever it is. So unfortunately, nobody knows injuries like I do. I went through more injuries than any coach in the history of football, and I didn't overcome them. So, but it's very important for you to make sure that the backups are ready to go. Your practice squad guys are always ready to go because you're going to use them. That's just the way it is in pro football. You can't make any excuses because, it's your backups have to be ready to be starters. Your practice squad guys have to be ready to be backups and be ready to be starters. And that's the way it is. And if you're not always trying to better your backups and better your practice squad guys, then you're not doing your team justice. So you got to put a team out there no matter what. Hell, we went through 35 different line combinations one year and 38 the next year. We had 7 different quarterbacks, I believe, in 2 years, and lost Jordan Reed, lost Trent Williams. And so I understand about injuries. It's very hard to overcome, but it's possible.
All right, let's get you out of here on this one. Who do you like for the Super Bowl this year? I know it's early.
Yeah, it's early. I think Detroit's got to get some guys back. Obviously, Philadelphia, I think, is playing the best football and has the best team right now. They can overpower you in a lot of different ways. I think Philadelphia and Detroit are built similarly on offense. Both have 2 outstanding offensive line groups. Both have running backs that are unbelievable, Saquon and Montgomery and Gibbs. Tight ends that can really hurt you, Goddard, and obviously Laporta. Receivers that are very good, A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams and Devontae Smith. So offensively and quarterbacks that are playing a pretty high, different types of quarterbacks. One's more of an athletic quarterback, one is more like a surgeon. So I think both those offenses are good. I think what separates Philly is their defense. Those interior defensive linemen with Jalen Carter, he's unbelievable. Their pass rushers get better. And then the development of Quinyon Mitchell at corner, and obviously the Cooper DeJean at nickel has really helped their defense out a lot. So I think I give Philadelphia the edge just because I think their defense is a little bit better and they go toe-to-toe with anybody on offense. In the AFC, I'd probably go Buffalo right now just because of Josh and their ability to still play defense. They can play cover 2 and still play a lot of good defense. They can their front can beat you, and then adding Matt Milano back will help them a lot as far as the linebacking core. But I still wouldn't put it past Baltimore to overcome a lot of stuff. And obviously Kansas City, when they get all their hired guns back, they're always going to be tough with Patrick Mahomes because now, they know how to win close. They're never going to blink if they get behind or it's a close game. They're always going to be able to figure out a way to do it at the end. And that's important, the confidence when things don't go well, tie game or you're down 6 late in the game. You always have that feeling you're going to win. And that is an important feeling to have. And Kansas City has that confidence. They can overcome anything.
Coach, this has been fantastic, man. I appreciate the time today. Love to do this again sometime.
All right, anytime. Just let me know. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it, man.
All right, see you.